Welcome to the Nurture Network podcast, where motherhood meets transformation. I'm Jess Baldenhofer, certified parent coach, educator, and mom on a mission to help you move beyond overwhelm and create a deeper connection with your kids and yourself. Each episode is packed with real tools, relatable stories, and the support you deserve. Let's dive in and take another step toward the peaceful, fulfilling parenting journey you've been searching for. Welcome back to the Nurture Network, the podcast where we explore the real emotional work of parenting and how to stay connected to yourself along the way. Today, I'm joined by my friend Stella, who is an overall inspirational person and the founder of Dowa Health. Stella's journey began with her own maternal depression, a time when she really struggled to find the right support. And out of that experience, she created Dowa, a maternal mental health website, an app that connects moms with tools, resources, and experts so they don't have to navigate motherhood alone. This conversation feels especially important right now. According to the JAMA Network, the prevalence of diagnosed postpartum depression nearly doubled in the US, rising from 9.4% in 2010 to 19% in 2021. And while postpartum depression is often thought of as something that resolves quickly, the reality is that maternal depression can last well beyond the first year after birth. For some mothers, symptoms persist for years, shaping their experience of motherhood, their sense of self, and even their ability to bond and feel joy in parenting. So, welcome, Stella. I'm so excited to have you today and to have a conversation with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Jess. I always love talking to you.
Yes. Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to chat. So, can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to what was your path in terms of creating Dowa? And then we'll tell people a little bit more about what it is.
Yeah. So, very unexpectedly, I experienced very severe depression about a year and a half after my son was born. And to be honest, I was never diagnosed with perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. So it's not specifically, what you would call postpartum depression. But, what I went through, it, when you when you compound that with being a new mom, things just like really fell apart. Mine was more related to a specific type of trauma that was not specifically tied to being a mom, but that didn't make it easier in any way to recover from. If anything, I think because I was also going through the journey of being a new mother, it made it way harder. And I was very lucky that a good friend of mine noticed something was off just through text messages. And she knew about this center called the Motherhood Center in New York. And they have a program that is, I think maybe like one of three in the entire US, where they have something called the Day program for new moms. But unlike other programs, they go past that perinatal stage where it's just that 1 year past postpartum. They go all the way up to 3 years old. So I qualified to go to that program. And to be honest, I was initially very reluctant to go. I think part of that is I didn't want to admit that I needed to go or admit defeat in some way. But also, I didn't have a PMAD. I didn't have a newborn, so I didn't quite fit the bill. And I'd never been to a program like that. A day program is really 5 days a week, 5 hours each day. So it's super intensive. But ultimately I went, and honestly, the program saved my life. The mothers that I met there really, really they are really who I attribute to my life changing. And so when I discharged, I think for a lot of people who go through something like this, I wanted to pay it forward. So I, started looking at creating Dowa. I became a certified mental health peer specialist, and now I help other moms through recovery, and I do that pro bono. And yeah, that's kind of like where everything started. And then, I know there's like beauty to it because it's like you're making lemonade out of lemons and all that, but it was really, really hard. And recovery, and it's not like you're fully recovered after you come out of a program like that. It still takes time. And so I'm still in recovery. At the end of the day, I'm still in recovery. And the thing is, like, even if you're feeling better every day now, you still remember what you felt back then. And I think that's kind of scary in itself because you don't want to go back to that. But yeah, long story short, that's
Oh,
what's
thank
inspired
you for
Doa.
sharing that story because I think what you're also doing, and I know that your mission in Doha is to support moms who went through similar things that you went through. But even just right now on this podcast, sharing your story, it really does like reduce the shame. And even the parts where you mentioned about like, I didn't fit into a specific box or a specific category, but I was just really struggling. And then I had a friend who saw that and encouraged me to get help. I mean, you're doing that every time you share your story is encouraging people to get help even if they don't fit within a specific paradigm that they're hearing about.
Yeah, and honestly, like what I noticed was that there really isn't a lot out there for moms. Well, in general, right? But
Yeah.
really, if once you're past that first year postpartum, there's like really, really nothing. And the reality is that like everything you're experiencing and going through, it it's connected to your motherhood journey. And so we really need something that honors all those different identities that you're kind of, comparing and trying to hold together. And of course, like as your child gets older, you enter a new stage of parenting, and that comes with its own types of challenges that now you have to navigate as well. And so that's what I really wanted to solve because I think coming in with a child that was older into that program, there were instances where I felt I didn't belong there. And then there were times where I felt that I connected well with everyone. But to be able to have something that felt more like aligned with where I was at as a parent, I think would have been really beneficial.
That's such a good point. And honestly, what actually is winds up negatively affecting the mental health of mothers is this societal expectation that once we figure out like what crib and stroller to get, and we read that first book about having an infant, that we're supposed to know what to do. And that asking for help or looking for resources beyond that first year is like you should already know what to do. You shouldn't need that kind of support. That is a societal message that we receive. And it does negatively affect the maternal mental health. So people could have a 5-year-old and start to feel really depressed in their life as a mother and feeling disconnected, feeling lonely, feeling they don't have resources, they don't have support. So it is this very cyclical thing that can happen.
Yeah. I mean, like when you think about it, depression is depression, right? Anxiety is anxiety. OCD is OCD. Like all these conditions exist on their own. But when you become a parent, you're you're a caregiver, and of course, like you're also caregiving to the people around you, like maybe you have aging parents and all that. So that's like a whole extra layer of
Mhm.
complication there. But you have another person you have to take care of, and sure, if they're older and teenager, maybe it's a little bit easier versus like a newborn who like constantly needs you to like literally survive. But if you can't get out of bed, if you're too scared to walk out the door or whatever it is, it makes it really impossible to take care of another human being, right? But you
Yeah.
have to do it. So you push yourself through it, but it's like at what cost? Is that right? So that's what I think about, because when I was in that program, I had a really hard time getting out of bed. I had a
Mhm.
hard time doing anything. And I was technically in some ways a danger to myself as well, right? So
Yeah.
so I'm still carrying all those things while trying to raise a toddler.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy thing to do. I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. And so we really need to think about all these things, how they're connected and how they impact a person, and then figure out how do we support that person in the best way possible.
Yeah, and for many of us to your point, many of us were not raised with these tools on how to manage our own mental health, on how to take care of ourselves, on how to like even identify like what you said like when we're moving past the line where we're like, okay, I think I really might be depressed or I really have an anxiety disorder. And how do I go get help? Many of us were not given the tools to even notice those things about ourselves, take care of ourselves in the right way. So we're trying to do that, like you're saying, while also trying to teach a little person how to do that at the same time. And it can feel impossible.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for a lot of people is that they don't know what's normal and what's not normal. It's really
Right.
hard to understand the difference, especially when you're in the thick of it and you can like barely function or think about anything anyways. And as we know, many moms with the mental load are already carrying so much information for other people. So like how are you supposed to know, or how you find that you need time to assess and understand what you're going through? And a lot of us just don't have that. So you need someone in your life that can notice that for you. And I was lucky that I had that person.
Hmm.
And the question is like, do you as a person, as a mom or whoever, like, do you have someone in your life like that?
Right. Right. And even just in thinking about reaching out, right? Like, so having those people in your life, and then also just if you're struggling, I guess it's the message we can say right now is if you feel like you're struggling, and if you're even wondering, is this normal? Am I depressed in a normal way? Am I anxious in a normal way? If you're even wondering that, to find one person that you can reach out to and ask them and check in with them and share what it is you're going through, because we are so isolated and so siloed as mothers in this time. And so finding just one person or two people that you can open up to and share with is so important, and really, kind of facilitating community in that way so that we take care of each other in that way.
Yeah. I think on that note, though, it can be really hard. I mean, we
Yeah.
say you just need one or two people. That's really hard to find sometimes. You know, they could
Mhm.
be your oldest friend and you might not feel comfortable telling them because they have this version of you in their head and you don't want to mess that up or something, right? Or you don't know how they're going to react because they could be going through their own stuff and react in a way that makes you feel worse. You know, it's not like everyone around you also has the right tools, right? So I think that can be really, really tricky. And so I can understand why a lot of moms are just silent. They don't
Yeah.
even tell their best friends or something because it's like, for instance, like if you have a child, right? But your best friend has had trouble conceiving, are you going to open up to her? Like, maybe, I don't know. Like, there's like nuances there and things you have to consider. Like, you don't know how she might react, right? So I think that's really, really challenging. Again, I'm very lucky that I had this friend, but she also, had gone through therapy and done all these things. So she had the tools. And
Right.
so maybe if you have a friend that you know goes to therapy or has had gone to therapy, maybe they might be easier to speak to because they'll have a better understanding, hopefully. Hopefully.
Well, and that's such a good example too, and kind of segue into Doa and how it supports moms, because when you have a trusted place where you can find resources, that can be a really great place to start. So, tell us a little bit about how you started Doa and how it came to be and how it serves moms today.
Yeah. So originally I started as a virtual free program just to see what would resonate with moms in the community. I literally went around just like handing out flyers. I actually think you found one of my flyers. That's how we connected. But I just, my whole thinking around this is that the mind, body, parenting, like everything's connected to your mental health. And so all the programming was based around that. So, like, you could have a mental health specific workshop, but you also had a parenting workshop and you also had physical recovery movement workshops. And so I played around a lot with that. And overall, we got some pretty good feedback. And I also got to speak to a lot of moms. And it turns out quite a few of them, they knew they needed help and they knew something was off, but they didn't always want to go to therapy. It's expensive, timing, uh, and the biggest one, and not surprising, is that they didn't want to be diagnosed. They just
Mm.
wanted tools. They just wanted help now. Now, do I think they probably should consider therapy? Absolutely, because I just, so, look how, I have like my recovery has been really great because of therapy. But, to each their own, whenever you're ready or whatever works for you. And so we connected, you and I connected, and then I reached out to a bunch of different providers across the country and some internationally. And I talked to them about like the work they do and what I was thinking of trying to do, of trying to bring all these providers together in one place so that if you're a parent, you don't have to go searching for all these people, right? They're all in one place for you. And so I had like a list of things I want to solve. So one was, um, ease of like research. So we spend a lot of time doing research online. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. A lot of work to do, and that's actually one of the biggest hurdles for people to get help, right? So I want to remove that hurdle. So by bringing all the providers together, that's one less hurdle. The other was access and cost. So even if you have insurance, therapy and all these providers can be expensive. Also, a lot of these providers don't even take insurance. Yeah. So you're talking $200, $300, $500 sessions, which a lot of people can't afford, especially if you have children, because they're expensive. So I wanted to create a shared access model, right? So that means we're kind of all sharing the costs together to have access to these providers. Now, that doesn't mean you necessarily have one-on-one support, but you have group access support, whether it's the recorded content that you can access at any time on your own, right? So you're not like, what is it? You're not confined by time. But then we also have these live workshops that we continued over so that you have the opportunity to learn from an actual expert and coach. And all the providers we have are licensed and certified professionals who specifically work with moms. And I would say like 98% of them are moms themselves. Um, so those are the things that I wanted to really knock the hurdle down. And the other thing was like, it's important to hear from other moms with lived experience. And so I have this section that's called voicemails. It's kind of like voice notes from real moms just across the country who talk about their experience and how they're on the other side of it. And the reason why I wanted to have that was because I remember being up at 3 a.m., you know, on the floor crying. And like, you don't want to go on Instagram or social media. You just want to like lay there in the cold. And I think if I could hear the voice of another person that knew what I was going through, it would have helped a lot. Because honestly, like I've done the suicide hotlines and things like that. And, they're really great for a lot of people. They weren't beneficial for me per se. I didn't really enjoy it. But I think something like this would have helped me.
That is a perfect example of one of the things that Dowa does, which is kind of like has all of these different options for all of the different experiences that moms have, or a lot of them, and situations where they might need support. And to your point earlier about like when you think you want to pick up the phone and call a friend, and maybe it's not the right friend, or maybe they don't have the bandwidth to support you, the resources on Dowa are just there for you to receive, where you don't have to feel like you're bothering anybody or asking too much or whatever. I'm not saying I'm a proponent for thinking that way, but a lot of us do. And that's the reality of it. So having those voice notes to just in the middle of the night kind of like listen to and feel support from other moms is so important.
I think, especially speaking for myself as a minority and Asian American woman, it can be very, very challenging that some of these communities I join, I don't feel like they're quite for me
Mhm.
because they lack a level of diversity that would be more appropriate for me.
Yeah. And so how did you kind of, you talked a little bit about this earlier, but just in terms of people coming to Doa as this resource, you've been so thoughtful about the providers that you have selected to be as part of Doa. So, like you said, most of them are moms themselves, but they're all like certified in one area, working specifically with moms. But talk to me a little bit about like how you chose these people and what kind of like expert you were looking for, but also what kind of feel you're giving to people. Because I think one of the big things about Doa is that you can go to one place and kind of trust everybody that's on that site. And maybe one program will be for you more than another, or one expert will be for you more than another, but you don't have to do the vetting. You did that. So tell us a little bit about how you did that and, what the environment is that you're trying to create on Doa.
Yeah. So first and foremost, everyone is licensed and certified. I love social media influencers. I think they're wonderful people. I think that, you know, they have some great knowledge in things and personal knowledge, but that is not evidence-based knowledge necessarily, which I think if you're peddling as, real, not like real expertise can be dangerous. So first and foremost, all of our providers are licensed and certified in what they are an expert in. The other thing is that when I spoke with everyone, there was a common theme. Most of the providers I spoke to had gone through their own journey, right, of mental health or struggles of parenthood or whatever it was, and they were now also working in the maternal space to give back and to make change in this area. And so I think having that shared mission was really powerful in connecting with people. And I think when I would talk to people, if we were able to connect really well, like immediately and understand each other about what we were doing and why we were doing it, it just felt really, I don't know, like meant to be in some
Yeah.
ways. And so I think it's just, moms supporting moms, right? We're just trying to support each other and the mission and support more moms together. And I think that's what's really important. Like, are you an I or are you a we? Like for me, like I'm very much a we person. And so when I meet other people, I get a sense of, are you a we or are you an I? And I think that's how like we can connect. How I found like what type of people to connect with. So obviously, I have my own experience of things I need and what I needed, but I spoke with a lot of moms, during the programming I did over the summer and as a certified mental health peer specialist and whatnot. I listened to what people were struggling with and going through, and I was like, okay, I need something on this topic. I need something on that topic, and would find people that know that topic really well, that work with that topic and bring their expertise in. So that's kind of how I went about finding people. And of course, like the providers I know also connected me to other providers. And so that's always great too, right? Because it's like we're all connected to each other, um, a familiarity. But of course, like I would always review the work as well. And as you know, like anyone who did a live class with us in the past, I went to like every single live class and
Yes.
I gave notes and I watched other people in the class of how they were reacting, how well they were participating,
Yeah.
and then we would refine the class and so forth. Um, the other thing that was important to me, and again, as a minority woman, is that I really wanted different voices in the room. And so, like, I have one provider who has like the biggest Southern twang. like for me, I'm like, whoa, it's like a movie. Um, but you know, there are gonna be people who really
Yeah.
resonate with that. They're like, oh, she's just like me, right? Or she looks like me, or her experience is similar to mine. Like she will understand me. And so I thought that would be very powerful for people who might be on the fence about getting help. The other thing I noticed for a lot of these like mental health apps and things and whatnot that are out there is that a lot of the voices are men.
Hmm.
And on our platform, it's all women. It's all women. It's all maternal specific. And like I said, most of them are moms. And so, like, I'm not trying to be like just my voice, just me doing everything. I want to bring everyone in together. And I want all of us working together to create change in this space. And I think the only way to do that is if we all join forces.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so powerful because I talk to moms often about this like cycle that they get into on Instagram or whatever, where they just watch these reels or even these parenting experts, maybe some of them are, some of them aren't. But what happens is it builds this cycle of shame, right? Because they
Yes.
often feel like they're not doing things right.
Mhm.
And what I love about Doa is that it not only sort of filters out and finds like real experts, like you were saying, that have actual expertise in these areas, but also the whole idea behind Doa is about getting support. And it's very sort of positive in certain ways but also like acknowledging the challenging things that people go through. But it's not there, it's such a safe space, it's such a safe environment where there's no shame, where there's no guilt, where you can kind of show up as you are and look for the things that are going to support you and what you need. And in some ways I think about it as like this antidote to getting on social media when you don't feel good, and it's like, no, I'm going to go to this safe space with this trusted content, and that is what's going to help at least start a journey of getting some support or continue a journey of getting support. And it's really like a beautiful thing. Like you just said, the community of women, mostly women who, or all women, you said, who are working with Doa to create this content. Many of us have gone through things ourselves, and it's our missions and our purposes to be joining together and to supporting other moms going through it. So it really is an antidote to a lot of what's out there right now.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, as you know, I went through every single piece of content, listened to
Yeah.
it myself, edited myself with the help of my husband. And can I do that forever? Probably not. But something that I really looked at and listened to, and you know this, is that I thought about what the person on the other end would feel as they were listening to it, right?
Yeah.
Because at first and foremost, like, we are a mental health company. Like, mental health is the first thing that we're thinking about. So even if you're talking about breastfeeding, parent coaching, or whatever, I'm thinking about, if I, from a mental health perspective, is there anything in here that could be triggering? Now,
Mhm.
did I get it all right? I don't know. Time will tell. Time will tell. But if one of the providers saying, "Oh, like, do self care," I
Right.
had that taken out. So I was like, "Well, what is self care?" Because not everyone can afford to just go get a massage or do XYZ things, right? Like, we need to consider all the realities for a lot of parents across the country. And so I really tried my best to make sure that the content was inclusive and didn't trigger anyone. But again, time will tell.
Yeah, but I really noticed that as a provider that you were a fierce advocate for all moms as you were, you know, steering us with content and things like that, that you were fiercely advocating for all moms and thinking about them and their needs. And so, in terms of that, if a mom is listening to this today and wants to like get started on Doa, like how would they do that? Where would they get started? How would they sort of access the platform? And also, where might they start with just picking a class, or is there a specific journey that they should take?
So you can go to our website, doahealth.com, and just sign up there. We have a 2-week free trial period, so you can see if it works for you or not. Um, every month, we have something called Practice of the Month, and that changes and connects you to different types of content across the app. Uh, so one of the practice of the month is reclaiming identity, and we have featured content that goes with that practice. And we'll talk about that in emails and probably a little bit through social media, so that you can kind of learn what that means and how you go about doing that for yourself every day. The thing that I'm most excited about in the app, it actually is this thing called Release Valve. You can call it a panic button, whatever you want to call it, but it's just a big button in the middle. And when you press it, there's 10 emotions that are there: mom rage. Oh, it's called just rage, but we call it mom rage, uh, anxiety, resentment, guilt, so forth. And you know how sometimes we have these like really big emotions and we just want to like scream or something like that? Well, you can use our app, the release valve, and there's a practice for each one of those that'll help you reduce those feelings within minutes. So I'm really, really excited about that because I use it quite a bit. And actually, our software engineers who are male also use it.
That's great.
When they were testing it, they were using it, and they're like, "Oh, I feel so relaxed." So
That's so great. I was literally just talking to a group of moms the other day, and like this idea that we just, as moms, we just keep like having these little moments where we feel things, whether in our body or in our minds or in our hearts. And we just kind of keep shoving them down and going about our day, shoving them down and going about our day. So finding little ways to process these emotions, process these difficult emotions allows us to move through them. So I love that tool for moms as like this very clear cut way to say, I need to process this emotion. And the app is going to help me do that.
yes, and yeah, so hopefully reduce the emotion within minutes. And then we have our live programming. So we'll have group coaching, we have workshops, we'll have programs coming soon, which is going to be really exciting. And those are more coaching style, but it's like over a set amount of weeks. And so that's like a whole program. So we're working on that right now. But yeah, where you can go to our website, you can follow us on Instagram. I'm not a big social media person, so there's not too much there. There's a couple of awkward reels of me there. Do you want to like see what I look like and like be like, oh, she's so awkward? You can go there. But yeah, for the most part, you should just go to our website probably.
Well, I will link everything in the show notes too, so people can find Dowa and find all the amazing resources on Dowa. But I'm really excited for moms to just get on Dowa and start using it and playing around with it and really making kind of curating their own experience on Dowa because there's so many choices and so many different ways you can go. Um, if you just like in wrapping up and like thinking about moms out there who might be listening and who might be struggling, if you could speak directly to a mom listening who feels like she's failing, what would you want her to hear? Or even how would you want her to take care of herself?
This is something that I basically live by. There's only one type of failure in life, and that is not trying. So you feel like you're failing because you're trying every day, which means you're learning every day. And everyone mixes up failing versus learning. But the reality is that we learn by doing, by living. And sometimes that might mean making a mistake because, the best way to learn is sometimes by making a mistake. And unfortunately, we so often misjudge that for failure. But true failure is doing nothing, right? It's standing still. So, not to mention like what you think is failing to your child, they see as love, adventure, resilience, growth. And that's what's going to help shape them into a wonderful, strong person like you. So if you feel like you're failing, in some ways, I'd say like, oh, it sounds like you're doing great. Because most people, it's, the reason why you feel like you're failing is because you're trying so hard. And that's great.
I love that. It just means you're living and you're
Yeah.
doing and you're taking
Yeah.
chances and trying new things. And for most people, like becoming a mother is a giant leap of faith, right? And not just like deciding to become a mother, but also waking up every day and being a mother is just a giant leap of faith and an adventure, like you're saying. So I love that making mistakes just means you're kind of like living.
Well, it means you're doing great, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it means you're trying, right? You're trying your best. You're moving forward. And that's what you want to show your kid, right? We,
Yeah.
we, we worry about our kids and their resilience and all these things. And it's like, well, they see you getting up every day, moving forward. They see that, they will emulate that. Like you're modeling that for them.
Yeah. And I'll tack on to that, like being as kind as you can to yourself as you do make mistakes, because that is also modeling to your kids, like how you handle it when something doesn't go the way you want it to go, just kindness to yourself.
Yeah.
Stella, thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing Doa with all of us, because
Yeah.
it really is such a gem for moms out there and a place where moms can go to receive support. And I know it'll just keep evolving and growing, and the community will get even larger. So thank you for sharing everything about Doa today and for joining me on the Nurture Network.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Nurture Network. If this episode resonated with you, subscribe so you won't miss the next one. Share it with a fellow mom who might need it too. Until next time, remember that nurturing yourself is the first step in nurturing your family.